Jonathan Frakes tweets about being back on Discovery. Deadline posts an article that causes a little bit of controversy, and we've got a few rumors to get through. Let's pour it up. Okay, so the very first story we're going to cover today is that Jonathan Frakes tweeted out a photo of him back on the set of Star Trek Discovery, confirming that he is, in fact, directing again for the third season of the show. It also does confirm that the show is in full swing production. I know we've known about this for about a month now, but for anybody who's out there having lingering feelings about whether or not the show was actually in production, well, here he is on set doing his thing. So I'm very excited to see which episodes he's going to be directing and what potentially if that's going to be expanding, contracting, if he's going to be doing more episodes, or what kind of creative control he may have over the show in conjunction with Michelle Paradis. Next up, I want to go ahead and touch on an article. Now, you may think that this may need to be in the rumor rundown section, but since it was reported on by Deadline, which is a news website, I do want to touch on this article that they wrote a little bit ago. In it, it covers the whole merger situation between CBS and Viacom, but they say something rather peculiar here towards the middle of it, where it says that CBS studios were not initially able to use characters on their all-access shows. Now, that is actually a little quote there that's a hyperlink that takes you to an article from 2015, and the only source in that article written by one person is saying that they heard that that may be the case. So I emailed both of the authors of this more current article from 2019 asking if they knew anything about why they said that, or if they had additional sources, or what their material source was for that particular statement being accurate for their article. They never wrote me back, but I did try to reach out to them to try to understand why they put that in there. But for anybody who was looking at that, maybe wondering what's going on, we do know that that's not the case. CBS Studios is obviously able to use any of the characters they want from, the Star Trek IP, since they are the sole owners of it. That's separate from the whole 25% rumor thing in regards to them having to change everything, where we do know for sure that they've been able to use TOS characters inside of All Access Productions, specifically Star Trek Discovery, because we've got Spock, Pike, Number One, Sarek, just a whole gambit of people there, Harry Mudd, just a whole bunch of people there that they clearly were using for Star Trek Discovery. So why they said that in this article, couldn't tell you, but there is no source material on it, and so right now that's basically just bogus. I hope that they eventually, at some point, take it down. All right, let's go ahead and hit the rumor rundown. So the only big rumor that I really wanted to touch on is something that made the rounds rather quickly and then really fizzled out really fast, which was this whole thing about someone on Twitter utilizing Google Trends, which you can do and search like different trends of people searching for different items on Google. They used Google Trends to try to prove that Star Trek Discovery was not very popular based off of the searches being put inside of Google. Now, beyond the fact that Google Trends is not a very reliable source of information for popularity of shows, in fact, I wouldn't even say that it should be considered at all, but playing at their game, this is the image that was uploaded on Twitter by the user that shows a comparison between the Orville and Star Trek Discovery, obviously showing that the Orville was more popular than Discovery. Now, when I initially saw this image, I called out this user for editing it rather heavily because it did not show which country that they were searching for, which I assumed was just in the United States. Now, when you look at just the United States versus the worldwide stuff, it looks rather similar in nature, so that's why I assumed that, but this screenshot was in fact from worldwide. However, the other thing that I pointed out was that typically people don't search for Star Trek Discovery with a colon there. They usually will just search for Star Trek Discovery without the colon, or just Discovery, or just Star Trek, but just searching for the Orville versus Star Trek Discovery sans the colon worldwide, you get these results. They're not exactly the best results, and they are much more closer in line with each other. Star Trek Discovery isn't necessarily knocking out of the park, but it's a much more realistic approach and representation of what this person was trying to prove. Now, that person on Twitter I did talk to a little bit to understand why they had removed the worldwide picture piece from their image, and it was to condense the image down because they were doing other edits with it for other YouTubers to utilize in their videos and stuff like that. So it was a worldwide comparison for the Orville and Star Trek Discovery, but if you drop the colon, which is what most people would do, I would say most people, based off of the fact that clearly the results are wildly different, but that brings it more in line with what the Orville had in terms of searches. But I don't think that this is really a good way or metric tool to measure the popularity of a show, because I don't know how many people misspell the word Discovery, misspell the word Star Trek, just search for Star Trek looking for Discovery. So it's a really weird way of trying to figure that out. I don't think that's necessarily reliable, but I did want to touch on this because it did spread like wildfire really, really fast. People just like to shit on Star Trek Discovery and prop up the Orville, but that is kind of a manipulation a little bit of what people actually use Google for and how they search with it. So you got to be really smart with those kinds of tools. So anyways, I just wanted to comment on that particular piece of a rumor. I know a lot of YouTubers have already ran with that. Usual crew, you know, they kind of bounded through the door with it again. But in my opinion, I don't think it actually holds up under scrutiny. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the comment of the week. This week's comment comes from user Jeffrey Getter, and it says, "You sound butthurt. Use Vaseline next time. Pound, pound, hashtag, tag. I stand with the fandom. Alien, alien, alien. Muscle, muscle, muscle. Muscle, muscle, muscle. Muscle, muscle." Well, listen, Jeffrey, I would not recommend, and neither would the FDA, utilizing Vaseline for any kind of sexual intercourse, which is what I assume that you're implying there. Because Vaseline, A, can definitely wear down the latex of a condom, which will get somebody pregnant, and B, it definitely invades your body with bacteria and opens it up for infection. So, Jeff, I hope you're not actually using Vaseline, and that maybe that was just an offhand comment. If not, you should probably get your butt checked. Also, I don't know why you spelt the word hashtag after putting the 3 other hashtags on there, or what the aliens necessarily stand for, but I appreciate your excitement in that comment, so get your butt checked. Anyways, guys and gals, that wraps up today's video. I know this was kind of a short Earl Grey pour-up. There's not too much news going around right now for Star Trek in comparison to the last couple of weeks that we had all the big conventions going on, but there's still going to be more news coming out shortly, I'm sure, about the short treks that'll be released, because there's intended to be released sometime before Picard airs around February 2020, so I'm sure we're going to get some news and more trailers potentially about each one of those as they get closer, and of course we'll be doing breakdown reviews of those once they finally do get released. So anyways, what do you think about this weird comment that Deadline put into their article? Do you think that they were just trying to stir up controversy to get clicks on their article? Or do you think that they really believe this and have another source going on? I'm curious to hear what you guys and gals think about it. Throw up that stuff down below and let's get the conversation started. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies!